Okay, so you've sent over some really interesting stuff about how sleep, blood sugar, and losing weight are all kind of tied together.
Oh,
Clearly,
yeah.
you're really trying to go deep here and understand how all these like basic parts of your health work together.
Definitely.
So that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Okay.
We're diving deep into how sleep impacts your blood sugar and how well you can manage your weight, all based on what you've shared.
Yeah.
And then this isn't just about like feeling tired, right? It's
Yeah.
about like some pretty fundamental stuff happening in your body.
Absolutely.
We've got some fascinating research to go through, and honestly, I think you're going to find some of this pretty eye-opening.
Okay.
It's kind of surprising how much poor sleep can actually sabotage your efforts,
Yeah.
even if you're eating well and exercising.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting to me is how often sleep gets overlooked when we talk about health.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's focused on diet and exercise, which are super important, of course.
Yeah.
But sleep, it's like this behind-the-scenes master controller for so many things going on in our bodies.
Yeah, it really is.
And the stuff you sent over just really highlights that.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit.
Sure.
Starting with what seems to be like a major domino effect, this connection between sleep cortisol and blood sugar.
Yeah.
It seems that when we don't get enough sleep consistently, and we're talking less than 7 to 8 hours,
Yeah.
our body basically freaks out and thinks it's stressed.
Right. And we all know what happens when we're stressed.
Yeah, exactly. Our body's stress response kicks in.
Exactly.
Which means we get a surge of cortisol, that lovely stress hormone.
Exactly. Now, cortisol is important. It has its roles to play.
Right, of course.
But when it's constantly high because we're not sleeping enough,
Uh-huh.
that's when it starts to mess with our blood sugar in a big way.
Okay, so walk us through that chain reaction. What exactly does this increased cortisol do in this scenario?
So basically, when cortisol is elevated, it sends a message to the liver.
Okay.
It says, hey, liver, release more glucose into the bloodstream. It's like our body is on high alert, thinking there's some threat, and it needs readily available fuel.
So like a survival mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In this case, the threat is just not getting enough sleep.
Right. I get it. Makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, I guess.
Yeah.
But then what happens next? We've got all this extra glucose floating around.
Well, that surplus of glucose triggers the pancreas to release more insulin.
Okay.
And insulin's job is to basically grab that glucose from the bloodstream
Mm-hmm.
and shuttle it into our cells for energy.
Right.
But here's the thing. When this happens over and over again, because cortisol is always high from poor sleep,
Uh-huh.
our cells start to become a bit resistant to insulin's message.
Interesting.
It's like they're not hearing it as clearly.
So like decreased insulin sensitivity.
Exactly. Their ears for insulin's message are getting muffled.
And that's when things start to go haywire, right?
Exactly.
If our cells aren't getting the message from insulin,
Right.
then our blood sugar levels just stay high.
Precisely. And unfortunately, this story doesn't end there.
Oh, no.
This consistently high blood sugar, often from this whole sleep cortisol insulin resistance cycle,
Yeah.
it actually encourages the body to store fat.
Ugh.
And not just any fat. It tends to be visceral fat, the kind that builds up around our organs.
Not good.
Not good at all.
And actually, there's this really striking finding from the University of Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
They found that just 4 days of getting only 4.5 hours of sleep per night reduced insulin sensitivity by a crazy 30% in healthy people.
Wow.
That's huge. And it's comparable to what you'd see in people with prediabetes.
That is really significant.
Yeah, it really highlights how quickly sleep can affect our metabolism.
It does. And the speed and scale of that effect is what's really insightful, I think.
What?
It's not some slow process that takes years.
Yeah.
This is happening fast.
Yeah.
So anyone focused on their blood sugar really needs to ask themselves, am I prioritizing sleep enough?
Definitely. And it's not just this cortisol cascade that affects blood sugar, right?
Right.
The research also talks about more direct ways that sleep deprivation messes with glucose regulation.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So beyond the hormonal pathway, poor sleep disrupts a few other key processes that keep blood sugar levels healthy.
Like what?
Well, for example, there's impaired glucose tolerance,
Okay.
which basically means after you eat this way, your blood sugar levels are going to be higher if you haven't slept enough compared to when you're well rested.
So even if I'm eating the same meal,
Exactly.
my body handles the sugar differently depending on how much sleep I've had.
Exactly. And it gets even more complex.
Okay.
The research also shows that not getting enough sleep actually makes it harder for your pancreas to produce enough insulin.
Oh, wow.
So not only are your cells becoming resistant,
Right.
your body might not even be making enough insulin in the first place.
That's like a double whammy.
It is.
Hmm.
And then there's the issue of cellular glucose uptake.
Which is,
Basically, your cells themselves become less efficient at taking in glucose when you're sleep deprived.
so they're kind of sluggish.
Exactly. And that further contributes to higher blood sugar levels.
Wow.
And on top of all that, you've got the increased insulin resistance we talked about earlier.
Right.
So chronic sleep deprivation is basically making your cells less and less receptive to insulin over time.
It's like a recipe for disaster.
It kind of is. And there's this other really interesting statistic from the journal Diabetes Care.
Okay.
They found that just one night of getting 4 hours of sleep led to a 20% decrease in insulin sensitivity the next day.
Seriously, just one night.
Just one night. That's an immediate impact.
So it's not just about long-term patterns.
Right.
Even one bad night can have a measurable effect.
Exactly. It makes you think about how much even a single night of bad sleep might be messing with your metabolism.
Yeah, it really does. Okay, so we've talked about how poor sleep affects blood sugar, but how does all of this lead to weight gain? What does the research say?
So the link is pretty complex, but one of the main mechanisms involves our hunger hormones.
Okay.
When you don't sleep well, your body produces more ghrelin.
Ghrelin being?
The hunger hormone. It tells your brain you need to eat.
Okay.
And at the same time, it decreases leptin.
What do you
It's the hormone that makes you feel full.
So you're hungrier and less satisfied after meals.
Exactly. And it's not just a small change.
Mm-hmm.
Studies show ghrelin can spike so much after just one night of bad sleep that it's like your body thinks it's starving.
Wow. So that's like a direct path to overeating.
It is.
Yeah.
And the research also talks about cravings specifically for carbs.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely experienced that.
Right. So what's fascinating is that people who are sleep deprived show more activity in the reward centers of their brains when they see high-carb foods.
So it's like our brains are driving us towards the very foods that will mess up our blood sugar even more.
Exactly. And to make matters worse, sleep deprivation also weakens the prefrontal cortex,
Which is...
the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and impulse control.
Oh, great. So our willpower goes out the window, too.
Basically. It's like the sensible adult part of our brain takes a nap when we're tired.
Ugh. This is sounding more and more like a nightmare.
It's not ideal. And then, of course, there's the simple fact that when you're exhausted, you're less likely to exercise or even just move around much.
And true.
Right? So fatigue from poor sleep leads to less physical activity, which further impacts calorie burning and blood sugar regulation.
Makes sense.
And beyond that, the research also points to something called a metabolic slowdown.
Okay.
Basically, when you're sleep deprived, your body tries to conserve energy by slowing down your metabolism.
Wait, so even when I'm resting, I'm burning fewer calories if I haven't slept well?
Exactly. It's a bit counterintuitive.
It is, and there's this really compelling study in the Annals of Internal Medicine.
Oh, yeah.
They found that dieters who only got 5.5 hours of sleep lost 55% less body fat
Wow.
and 60% more muscle mass compared to when they got 8.5 hours.
That's a huge difference.
Right. And this was with them eating the same number of calories.
That's incredible.
Same calories, drastically different results. It really makes you wonder if you're fighting a losing battle if you're not sleeping enough.
Absolutely. It shows that weight loss isn't just about calories in versus calories out.
Right.
Our hormones play a major role, and sleep is a big factor in that.
Okay, so the picture we've painted so far is a bit grim for those of us who aren't getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the research also emphasizes that this cycle can be broken and that sleep itself is a powerful solution.
Absolutely. Improving your sleep quality and how much you get can make a huge difference.
So what kind of improvements are we talking about?
Well, the material mentions that for each additional hour of sleep you get, your insulin function can improve by about 9%.
Seriously. That's significant.
It is. So prioritizing sleep isn't just about feeling less tired.
Right.
It's actively improving your body's ability to handle blood sugar.
That's really encouraging to hear, and the benefits go beyond insulin sensitivity, right?
Absolutely. Adequate sleep helps rebalance those hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, so you'll have fewer cravings and better appetite control. It also helps normalize cortisol production, preventing those blood sugar spikes.
So better sleep equals better blood sugar control overall.
Exactly. It means your body is keeping your blood sugar levels in a healthy range without those big swings.
It sounds like sleep is really a cornerstone of metabolic health.
It is. Just as important as diet and exercise.
Now, the research also mentions a specific supplement called GlucoTrust.
Yeah.
In the context of this sleep-blood sugar connection,
Right.
it's presented as a possible tool for people struggling in this area.
Exactly. So GlucoTrust is formulated to improve sleep quality as a way to manage blood sugar.
Okay.
The idea is that by getting deeper, more restorative sleep, you can address some of those hormonal imbalances that lead to poor blood sugar control.
So how is it supposed to work? What are the mechanisms involved?
So according to the information, it contains a blend of ingredients that are meant to work together to promote deeper sleep, reduce nighttime cortisol levels, which we know can trigger glucose release, and support more balanced blood sugar levels through various pathways. It's even supposed to help with cravings and appetite control by influencing those hunger hormones.
And there's a whole list of ingredients. Can you tell us a bit about what the research says about each one?
Sure. So there's Gymnema sylvester, which is supposed to decrease sugar absorption and improve insulin function.
Okay.
Then there's biotin, which helps convert food into energy and supports metabolism. Chromium is included to enhance insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance.
Okay.
And manganese is said to stimulate insulin production and improve how the body uses blood sugar.
Interesting. What else?
There's licorice root for adrenal support and stress response. Cinnamon, which may mimic insulin and help cells take up glucose.
Okay.
Zinc is important for insulin production and storage.
Right.
And finally, juniper berries for antioxidant properties and pancreatic support.
So it's like a combination of ingredients, all targeting different aspects of sleep and blood sugar.
Right.
Now, it's super important to mention here that we're just reporting on what the research says about this supplement.
Absolutely.
We're not endorsing it or making any claims about its effectiveness.
Right. This is just one potential avenue that's discussed in the information you shared.
Exactly. Okay, so moving beyond supplements, the research also offers some practical steps anyone can take to improve their sleep.
Yes.
And in turn, improve their blood sugar control.
Absolutely. These are all about good sleep hygiene, and they can make a big difference.
So what's the first step?
The first one is to keep consistent sleep-wake times, even on weekends.
Oh, man, that's a tough one.
It is. But it helps regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm.
Our bodies really do like routine.
They do. The next tip is about creating a good sleep environment.
Okay.
It's about making your bedroom as sleep-friendly as possible. Comfortable bedding, cool temperature, complete darkness, and minimal noise.
Like a sleep sanctuary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to minimize anything that could disrupt your sleep.
Makes sense. And in our digital world, the next tip is especially relevant: limiting blue light.
Yes. The blue light from our phones, tablets, laptops, TVs.
All of it.
It interferes with melatonin production,
Melatonin beam.
the hormone that signals your body to prepare for sleep.
Right.
So the recommendation is to limit screen time for 1 to 2 hours before bed.
I know I need to work on that.
It's a good goal for most of us.
Yeah.
And there's also the advice to be mindful of caffeine and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Caffeine is a stimulant and can stay in your system for a while, so avoiding it after midday is generally a good idea.
Okay.
And while alcohol might make you feel sleepy initially, it can disrupt your sleep later on.
Oh, interesting.
So avoiding it within 3 hours of bedtime is recommended.
Oh, okay. Good to know. What about exercise?
Exercise is great for sleep, but timing is important.
Oh, how so?
Regular physical activity can definitely improve sleep quality,
Uh-huh.
but you don't want to do intense workouts too close to bedtime. Finish those at least 3 hours before you plan to sleep, so your body has time to cool down and relax.
Makes sense.
And the research also suggests having a relaxation ritual before bed.
Like what kind of ritual?
It could be anything calming like meditation, gentle stretching, deep breathing exercises, or reading a physical book.
No screens.
No screens. The key is to wind down and avoid stimulating activities.
Got it. And the last tip is about meal timing.
Yes. Avoid eating large meals right before bed.
Why is that?
Digestion can interfere with sleep, and big meals close to bedtime can cause blood sugar fluctuations overnight.
Okay, so all of these are really practical steps anyone can take to sleep better.
Exactly.
And as we've learned, better sleep means better blood sugar control.
Absolutely. These aren't just random sleep tips.
Right.
They directly address the physiological mechanisms we've been talking about.
So by prioritizing these habits, people can take control of their sleep and their metabolic health. Okay, so to sum it all up, the main takeaway from this deep dive is the incredibly strong connection between sleep, blood sugar, and weight management.
It's a connection that's often overlooked.
Yeah, and it's clear that not getting enough sleep or having poor quality sleep creates a real problem in our bodies.
It sets off a chain reaction of hormonal and metabolic disruptions.
And those disruptions can actually make it harder to lose weight and manage blood sugar, even if you're doing everything else right.
It's much more than just feeling tired.
Exactly. It's about understanding that sleep is absolutely essential for our bodies to function properly.
It's like the central hub. When sleep is off balance, everything else gets thrown off too.
So for you, our listener, the big question to consider is, how are your own sleep habits affecting your health?
Something to really think about.
Are they impacting your blood sugar levels, your weight?
Even if you're already focused on diet and exercise,
Could prioritizing sleep be the key to unlocking better health for you?
it's definitely worth exploring.
It really is.